Introducing the Bite Me Cannabis Club. The Bite Me Cannabis Club aims to be an inclusive online space for cannabis lovers. Whether you're simply curious about how cannabis can improve your life or you're fully seasoned, there's always more to learn. When you join the Bite Me Cannabis Club, you'll have access to like-minded people interested in cannabis, monthly workshops, live Q&As, recipes and recipe swaps, digital cookbooks, a fully functional chat feature, and a whole lot more. For a limited time, it's only $5 a month with a 30-day free trial so you can try it out and see if it's right for you. This isn't just another Facebook group or confusing Discord channel. I carefully chose a platform that offers a clear, uncluttered, and seamless community experience. See for yourself, join today, say hello. I can't wait to connect with you there. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club today. Link in your podcast app. In this episode, we're going to be talking about mac and cheese 2 ways, plus one ingredient you should leave out if you make it. Welcome everybody to Bite Me, the show about edibles, where I help you take control of your high life. I'm your host, Marge. I'm going to be guiding you on this journey of all things edibles, and I just want to take a quick second to say thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time, welcome. Welcome to the land of edibles, where it's okay to drop an F-bomb. It's okay to fuck up, and it's okay to eat tasty edibles as often as you damn well please, because that's what I've been doing. COVID's been an interesting time. I'm struggling to get this podcast out some days, and other days it just flows like water. Strange times indeed. So what's new and exciting? Well, as you heard probably from earlier, we're going to be talking about mac and cheese today. There is a little something behind that because it's been a real interesting week. By the time this episode 44, I believe, gets released, I'll be back at work, people. Is it too soon? Depends on who you ask. Am I ready to go back? Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been keeping myself pretty fucking busy while I'm at home making all kinds of edibles. So, getting out of the house a little bit is probably going to be a welcome change. So yeah, you know what? It's time to go back. I only have a few shifts this week, so that's fine. Just ease me back in. But that's a big change that's happened this week, is going back to work. How do you guys feel? Do you feel like we're getting ready to open back up a little bit? It's hard to know. Who do you believe these days? Well, when it comes to edibles, you can believe me. That's the one thing I do know about. I don't know fuck all about COVID, really. Know what I've been hearing. I'll be wearing masks and gloves and all this other stuff, washing my hands like crazy. And other than that, just going about my day, going back to work. So I'm kind of excited about that. At the same time, an episode I recorded quite a while ago as a guest on another podcast was just released. I think it came out last Sunday. I'm not sure how that relates to whatever day it is that you're listening to this, but if you're interested in hearing your girl on another podcast, please, I recommend you go check out the 3R show. The 3R show, Random Ramblings with Rob. And I chat with Rob. He is from Texas. And we had a great conversation. It was pretty fun being a guest on another show. Totally something that was outside of my comfort zone. But needless to say, I really had a good time, and it was a fun podcast to record. So check that out. So yeah, 3R show. Check it out. You can also find him on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. Random Ramblings with Rob. 3R show talks to 3M. Yes, I am Mary Margaret Madden. So it was an interesting podcast to do, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Now, this mac and cheese. This has been a really difficult podcast for me to put together this week because it's been very strange around my house with this. I don't know if we're just settling into yet another week of quarantine. I got news that I was going back to work soon. People are feeling pent up. The weather's getting really nice where I am, so people are wanting, there's that spring fever, if you will, of getting outside and enjoying the weather as much as you can. So it's been really strange. I tried to make mac and cheese 3 ways, but it just didn't work out. The one recipe I've been wanting to make for a long time, once again, is out of Edibles, Small Bites for the Modern Cannabis Kitchen. This is a book I've been using probably almost exclusively as of late. But there's these mac and cheese bites in the book that look amazing. They're like bite-sized, deep-fried packets of cheesy mac and cheese. What can you not love about that? Well, of course, I went to the grocery store, and as anybody knows, lately going to the grocery store is not what it once was. You don't just go in and leisurely shop for your items, read labels, and all this stuff. Now it's like you really got to be strategic. You're holding your breath as you blow by people. If you don't have a mask on, you're trying to navigate aisles that aren't really wide enough for two people to maintain social distance. And of course, random items will be out of stock for no real reason, although I guess everybody baking bread does explain the whole flour thing. But I was looking for some specialty cheeses for this mac and cheese, and they just didn't have it, which would have meant probably a stop to a specialty cheese shop. And once you've stood in line to get into the store and stood in line to pay to get out of the store, the last thing you really want to do is go stand in line at another store. So I can see how COVID might change a lot of this way people shop moving forward. Certainly batching your shopping trips and trying to get as much stuff as you can in one spot is probably going to be a thing moving forward. I haven't tried using my Instacart lately. I really liked that service. I am an affiliate. If you want to check that out, there's, I think, a thing about it on my Marge Recommends page on my website, but I haven't used it lately only because it was hard to get slots for it. I think actually it's probably better now, but I've just been going to the store myself. Instacart's great, but honestly, you're just sending somebody else to do the job that you don't want to do, and sometimes it's nice to be able to go and pick out your own shit. So I use it sometimes, but I haven't used it lately. So this mac and cheese, it's really been throwing me for a loop this week because the three ways, it was supposed to be a pretty fancy mac and cheese. The second dish is a recipe I found online that I really liked because it had so many variations included. And I always love it when there's variations because it means that it really helps the reader, or the listener in your case, but perhaps you'll be reading it later if you decide to give this a shot. It really helps the person decide, hey, I happen to have these items on hand, but not these items, but they're suggesting that these variations will work well with this dish. So that's one reason why I love finding recipes that include a lot of variations. I don't think enough of them do that. So I'll make sure I include that recipe for a creamy cheesy mac and cheese. It's a baked one that you would put in the oven. And, you can serve something like that with a nice side salad. And of course, you're going to infuse some of the stuff that you put in this mac and cheese. And what you're going to infuse is butter. So most of the ingredients, they're pretty simple. It's not too long to put together. There's a few variations. I also really like that it provides cooking tips in this particular recipe that also includes making ahead and freezing it. So if you, like me, are in an industry where things are starting to go back to normal and you're interested in perhaps preparing for that, then having some meals in your freezer ready to go ahead of time is always a good idea. So if you're going to make this one, you can always make it ahead. If you do decide to infuse this, however, make sure you label. You should always do that, even if you're living with another adult. I do recall when I was still working at the restaurant before all this started, a young woman came from a neighboring shop in our downtown area asking if we had anything, I think that was high in protein, and we had a lot of high protein smoothies in our little restaurant because her roommate had made a delicious stew or chili or something like that and had neglected to inform her that it was infused. And she had a nice bowl for lunch before heading off to work, thinking nothing of it, only to find herself talking to customers a couple hours later that afternoon thinking like, holy fuck, I'm really high. And that's not a nice thing. It's never a nice thing to have to experience. She made it through okay. It wasn't too problematic. Obviously, she was a cannabis enthusiast, I guess. Not her first time enjoying edibles, so that was good. But yeah, no matter who you're living with, it's always a good idea to label this stuff, even for yourself, because you never know if you make something and you think, did I infuse it? Did I not? Especially if you're going to make something ahead and put it in the freezer for a later date. You certainly don't want to bring something like that to work for lunch and then realize again yourself that, you know what, that was indeed infused and now I'm really high at work. For some people, that might be okay. For a lot of us, it's not, whether it's bosses who don't really like you to be high at work or just for the sake of your own productivity and having to deal with customers, clients, coworkers, or any of that stuff. So please label. So I'll be sure to include that. It looks like a great recipe, and I'm going to be trying it out myself. This has been I think I've mentioned this already in this podcast. I'm rambling on for about 10 minutes. It's been a shitty week, so I didn't get around to it. What I did get around to making was the ghetto mac and cheese, the one that I was least looking forward to making. But you know what? Sometimes I feel like we're in strange times. People are cooking a lot, but do you ever feel like you're sick of cooking in a way? I'm making edibles. I really do enjoy making edibles, of course, because I make it in my kitchen and I can eat them later, and that's something I really do like. But when it comes to making meals, meal after meal after meal, sometimes when you're home all day, every day, it's kind of interesting how there's some nights you just don't feel like cooking. So what did I do? I made myself a box of macaroni and cheese. It was Kraft. It wasn't too bad. I've had some Kraft dinner kicking around in my kitchen from back when some of my kids used to make Kraft dinner on a pretty regular basis. Nobody's made any of that stuff for a while, but it's one of those things that's good to have in the back of your cupboard when you are totally unmotivated to do much of anything. As far as cooking goes, we need some kind of sustenance. So I made some. Hadn't made any in a long time, and it didn't turn out too bad. The only thing I would say is, and this is always totally personal preference, a little less milk. I like mine a little more creamy and less runny, which is what ended up happening. But here's the kicker. This is one of the reasons why this week was pretty frustrating. I went to go use my butter. Actually, what I wanted to do was T-check my butter and my coconut oil, because I always sort of have a general idea. I calculate the potency of my infusion, so I can calculate, how potent a cookie is or the end result is or whatever. And I was planning on T-checking it. T-checking is this really cool little handheld device that will test the potency of your infusions. If you buy the right add-on, you can also test flour. I've been playing around with it a little bit. It's a little spendy for somebody who is at home just making edibles for fun. So I don't necessarily, if you're pretty comfortable doing some basic math, then it's probably an unnecessary item to have. But if you're gifting a lot of edibles, it can be helpful. So I was going to play around with that because I need to use it more than I have been. And I go to open up the butter that I infused in recent weeks, and it was moldy. That's never happened to me before. I've had all kinds of infusions, and I've never had a problem with mold. Perhaps I should have left it in the fridge, which I hadn't, and that was the weather getting a little warmer. Maybe that was partly the cause, but I was just like, well, fuck. That's like a whole pound of butter that I just wasted, and I was pretty disappointed. It really sort of threw me for a loop for a second there. And so that was really disappointing. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't end up making the casserole, because I made this ghetto mac and cheese, just your classic Kraft dinner boxed macaroni and cheese. After I went through that shock of having my butter go moldy. So I used coconut oil instead. And that is not one swap that I feel is good to make. Coconut oil, in this particular instance, is not a good substitute for the butter, because this coconut oil was too strong of a flavor. Never mind the fact that it was infused and it had a slight green taste. That wasn't too bad. But it was more the idea that it imparted a real strong coconut flavor that I didn't really like. And so if you're going to be making any kind of mac and cheese, I would highly recommend you leave out the coconut oil and do butter for this particular one. If you're making cookies or something like that, usually those are almost interchangeable in my personal experience. But in this one, the butter probably would have been a lot better. And you might expect to have a bit of a green taste with it, but it worked because I did make it and I ate some. I didn't even eat the whole batch of it. I didn't eat all of it, obviously. I mean, it does take me back to eating Kraft dinner out of a pot. But I ate some of it and I got pretty high from it. I was maybe a little surprised that I got as high as I did, because it seemed like I only put in a tablespoon of butter, or the coconut oil rather. But sometimes you have to remember that 1 tablespoon can go a long way. Especially when you're doing things like testing for the potency. Sometimes you're testing potency per milliliter. And a milliliter is or like 1 milliliter, there's 15 milliliters in a tablespoon. So that can add up really quick. So just something to keep in mind. That's my tip from the beginning of the show. You don't want to use coconut oil for this one unless you really like that coconut oil taste that it will impart. And I don't know, coconut oil and cheese isn't really my thing. So that's my tip for you this week, you guys. It's been a weird week. I do have some actually interesting things coming up that I'm pretty excited about. I have a guest I'm going to be interviewing soon, probably my first guest outside of the family, my own personal, inner circle. So I'm excited about that. That brings me to the question, is there anybody that you would like me to interview? Anybody you'd like me to try and contact to have on the show, or anything you'd like me to cover? I'm all ears. You can always send me a message at bitemepodcast@fastmail.com, or head on over to my website where I have a voice message, a little tab you can click on to leave a voice message, and I get it. I've tested it out. I've had some listeners message me with it, and it's pretty fun. It's nice to hear your voices on the other end. So you can do that, and the website is bitemepodcast.com. And I'm still working on that a little bit here and there as I go back to work. If you feel like leaving me a review, I would appreciate that too. I love getting reviews. And a 5-star review would make this pretty stoned Canadian lady, very happy. Other than that, you guys, if you feel like checking out the 3R show, then let me know what you think about my guest appearance. And I'll be heading back to work, thinking about y'all, thinking about new edibles to make. Maybe trying to get that specialty cheese because this one recipe I really want to make. But I hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're staying safe. I hope you're not going too crazy. If you make something cool, please send it along. I'm going to be sharing some of the pictures that I get with folks in an upcoming newsletter. I'm going to get some pictures collected. So if you'd like to be included in that, then you can email me, you can scroll down, and you can join the newsletter on the website as well. I love you guys. Have a great week, and stay high.
Are you tired of trying edibles that are inconsistent in strength and flavor? Attempting to figure out your tolerance? Do you want to take control of your edibles experience and find the optimum combination of factors that results in the best outcome? If so, this edibles journal is perfect for you. The Bite Me Edibles Journal provides a convenient and organized way for you to track and record your edibles experience, whether it's homemade edibles or store-bought. It includes 48 fillable pages. It's sized 8.5 by 11 for plenty of writing space, includes information on calculating the potency of homemade edibles, and it was created by an edibles expert. Whether you're a seasoned edibles enthusiast or just starting out on your cannabis journey, the Bite Me Edibles Journal is an essential tool for anyone interested in enjoying their edibles to the fullest. Take control of your high life with this convenient and helpful resource. Add it to your Amazon cart today. Tap the link in the show notes.